dreams that we once had. This is the time to bring them back. What were the promises caught on the tips of our tongues? Do we forget or forgive? There's a whole other life waiting to live when one day we're brave enough to talk with conviction of the heart.
If you've had people that have sent in questions, or if there's some things that you personally are interested in, we're just going to throw it out there, and you and I are going to talk about it. It's just going to be a conversation, I guess, tonight between the two of us.
Yes, and my condolences go out to Stephanie. She's my co-host, and she won't be with us tonight. She'll be behind the scenes running things for us, but her stepmother passed away today, and so our condolences go out to her.
Sure, certainly. My heart goes out to her and her family, and I guess all we can do is say some happy prayers for her stepmom, that she goes on to the next phase of her life.
Absolutely.
Whatever density or dimension that's in.
Right, and then maybe celebrate the life that she did live here in this world, because those, of course, I've had people close to me, and there's a lot of people. You talked about the dynamics at the beginning of the show, and so there's a lot of this that's going on right now, and it hits really close to home when it happens to you. And so, again, our heartfelt prayers are going out to her and her family, and there's a lot of people that are probably right in the same place and space right now because of all the changes energetically and otherwise, and we're going to get into that tonight.
Yeah. I had a conversation, to sort of dovetail with this topic. A conversation with Thomas Hughes out of Texas.
Yeah.
He Thomas.
Yes.
He has a couple of higher dimensional contacts who are originally from my planet of origin, Dakota. And I don't remember their names, but the relevance of the story is that we were talking, I think, back in early April, and he said, have you happened to see the Houston, whatever the big Houston paper is? I'm like, no, I don't live in your area. He said, well, I got some news for you. He said, typically over the years, you might see 50 obituary notices, or maybe 65 on the Sunday paper. He's like, there are hundreds and hundreds of people that have been passing on as they are listed in the obituary of the Houston, whatever the major Houston paper is. He said it's unprecedented, the number of people that are leaving this planet.
Yes. And so, it's really a difficult subject to discuss, especially when it hits close to home. But if we look at it from a higher perspective or higher vantage point, we all know that we all live, we all die, and not one of us is getting out of this thing alive, and so to speak. And so it's important to talk about it and again celebrate the living, because that's what we're here to do. We're spiritual beings living out a human experience. So in my personal belief, I believe that we are energetic, and everything around us is energetic. And so it's important to maybe discuss the dynamics of life and death and what we perceive as death, but I don't believe we ever truly die. Energy never, it just always exists. It just changes form. It's all about potential and change. And so things that we're going through right now, which we'll get into tonight, the place and space that our solar system is in the universe, the sun, the activity of the sun right now, the comets that are coming through, the debris trail that we're really going through right now, and it's going to be even more intense towards the end of this month, the comet linear and the debris trail with that. And so maybe you could talk about, let's get into the dynamic times we're in first of all, and why are they so dynamic?
Oh boy, loaded question. I I like to do my best to speak, not only speak clearly, but to address each topic in a clear and concise and simple manner. And simple means using simple speech, not making things difficult. So I'll do my best, and I'll try to break it down in major pieces. And actually, some of this information is born out of a recent conversation, and just one of those kind of catch-up conversations that I was having with Mark Kimmel. And I want to just take a moment and share with everybody that I can't remember a time that I've met a man that is so intelligent, so calm, and so wise. He's just an incredible, incredible man, and probably one of the people who has some of the greatest insight into, as he calls them, the higher densities. And I'm actually going to change the use of my own language from dimension to density, because it is a more apt description of what happens to us as we evolve. And we leave these organic bodies behind and go to the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and beyond. So let me go back to the beginning of the question. Why is this current time of transition, and why will this upcoming transformation of this world, which is currently and has been a 3D organic dense matter world, into becoming a 4D higher frequency, higher density, fine essence matter world, why is it different? I'm sorry to use this four-letter word. Why is it different this time around? Well, the answer is twofold, but first we've got to step back and ask the question, has this planet been 3D the whole time? And what I've learned is that this world at one time was a higher density world, at least for a 4D fine essence matter world. And there was, and other people have told the story different ways, even the religions make reference to it, but I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. Now, I can't tell you when, but when, and I'm going to use some concepts that I believe will be pretty broad but specific enough that people will be able to grasp onto. Let's say, for the sake of this story and this description, there is an all pervasive, sorry, I bumped the computer, an all-pervasive universal energy source called Creator, that some people might call God, the prime creator, force, the source, the one, whatever that word is. Well, what I've learned recently is that this intelligent, fine matter essence energy source is sort of the power generator, if you will, and the glue that provides the energy and the cohesiveness to keep the organic matter universes and planets and solar systems, as well as the lower density, because of course Creator is up at the top, if you will, that it's the powerhouse and the cohesive, if you will, glue that keeps all of this together. So I'm starting at the top. One, if you will, level below Creator, is what I call small g's. You could call them godlets. You could call them creator gods. And over millennia, they have been tasked with creation and management of the structure of universes, the structure of galaxies. And that's why, for anybody that follows the work of Nassim Haramein and or David Wilcox, and or, what's his name? He used to go by Inan. Now he's Creator 188. all of these talk about the sacred geometry that is repeated not only in a pattern on this planet by virtue of ley lines, but that's repeated all across the cosmos. And essentially, if you look at what Drunvalo Melchizedek calls the flower of life, you will see like all of these right side up, upside down triangles and or spheres that are repeated over and over and over again. These are the celestial, this is celestial cosmic geometry. Some people call it sacred geometry. These are replicatable energy patterns that have been used as blueprints to create universes, galaxies, solar systems, stars, planets. Now, it is replicatable, but the pattern's going to be a little different from one solar system to another, from one planet to another. But you can see the replicatable energy patterns on each planet. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Earth. Inan, 188, ley lines, why certain earthquakes happen in certain places, why volcanoes are located in certain places. All of this comes under the, if you will, the purview of these little creator gods and godlets. Well, apparently, and again, I don't know when this happened, but apparently, fourth dimensional beings known as reptilians that were dumped in the Draco system, known as Draco reptilians, also ones that were in the Hydra system. This is the story that's been passed down in the religions known as quote unquote the Bible. And there's Adam and Eve. There was a fall. Well, the fall is because the reptilians got involved and they redirected this planet and its evolutionary growth from an upward pattern, from an upward movement to like a sine wave. It was like we peaked and then they pushed us down into a lower density, lower vibratory rate of 3D. This is important because, unfortunately, when these religions and other institutions talk about things like creationism, Adam and Eve, the snake represented as the devil, these are actual literal terms. Reptilians are the reptilians that brought the vibration of this planet and its beings down into a 3D vibration. And I'm not here talking at all about religions at all. I'm talking about the course of events that happened and why this is a 3D world today. So why is this moment in time different? To answer that question, and so the answer is, this moment of time is different because when this transformation happens, this solar system, its planets, and again, sorry for the four-letter word, at some future point in time, for other solar systems and planets, everybody's going to bump up one level, one layer, one density up. They will be lighter, they will be more full of light, and certainly Earth is going to become, in its first go-around, a crystalline-based 4D, 4-density, fine essence matter world, and all of its planets, all of its people on this planet, at that time when it happens, will evolve. And why is it important that it's happening now? Well, the answer is because the stranglehold and manipulation and abuse by these lower fourth dimensional beings from Draco, from Hydra, from other places that created the fall of humankind from what was originally a 4D vibration into 3D, their time of rule is coming to a close. It won't ever happen again on this world. Now, there are some other worlds that need to be cleaned up. If I remember correctly, the guys that I talk to on the Andromeda Council all the time have told me there are at least 18 other worlds that have reptilian infestation. They may run things differently, but there's still reptilian infestation, control, abuse of those beings that are native to those worlds. And two of those other worlds, which brings the number to, 1920, are very much like Earth. They're 3D, they're organic, and the only real difference is they probably have one or two races on those planets. Not like this world, which has probably 6 or 7 races at least. You have Asian, what's called, Red Man, which are Native Americans. You have European, Caucasus, Anglo-Saxon people. You have what are African people. We all look different because, guess what? We are different. We came from different solar systems and different planets to this world. This world, I think, as you and I talked about, is a repository for life all across the cosmos. And so you have these 18 other worlds, 2 of which are like Earth, that will also get cleaned up of reptilian infestation. But I digress. It's more important for people to understand that things may be messy right now. They may seem to be really hard. It may seem like there's a struggle that's not ending, but the struggle is ending. And the reptilians, the pure reptilians that still run things quietly behind the scenes with their reptilian off-world human hybrids with their own humans that are in positions of power in governments and religions and corporate America and all sorts of institutions. These people are going away one by one, two by three, quietly, but they're being removed. Now, I'm not talking about mass arrests. I'm talking about the fact that there are certain people that are part of the good guys that are finding and getting rid of at least those remaining reptilians and hybrids that are still exposed. Again, why is this different? It's because on this planet, this is the end game for this bunch. They won't ever run or rule this planet again. And I know that's a long explanation, but I wanted to provide some context in terms of why is Earth a 3D world today? How did it get here? It's a more real story than people even realize. When you think of all the different diverse religions and how that Adam and Eve and the devil or is represented by a snake. It's more literal than most people would believe. So it's been, and I'm giving you the compressed version, but hopefully I've done it justice by kind of giving the explanation the way I did, so it was in major pieces. Any questions?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a lot out there, but without the backstory, how would people even kind of get a grasp on what's really going on? Because right now everything looks chaotic to those who are totally asleep, and then there are people that are just waking up a little bit right now. And so one of the other variables are that we are at different points on the path of as far as awareness goes. And so it doesn't make anybody better because you're further down the path. It just means that you're a little more awake. And so, that's why there's so much confusion, because one person will say one thing and it might resonate to another, an individual, but the things that you're saying or I'm saying may not resonate yet, but maybe in a month down the road, that seed was planted, and then all of a sudden it'll trigger something in your brain and go, oh, wait a minute. Tolec said that about that. Oh my gosh, you know what? Now I understand what he's talking about, because before I didn't get it because I wasn't ready energetically or with my what people sometimes call soul growth, what I like to call a soul remembrance.
Yeah. You are absolutely right. And as we were talking about just recently in a prep session for this show, that's why it's so important that that there are guys and women like me, like Alex Collier, like Mark Kimmel, like Drunvula Melchizedek, like James Gillian, like hosts of others because not one of us has the whole story. And hopefully, and I believe this is true, at least of the people I mentioned, hopefully each of those people are kind, are intelligent, are discerning, and come from a really good place. And therefore, their information is good. And if that's the case, then when you have people pieces of information to this vast puzzle of what is this time of transition and transformation we're going through, the language may be different for each of us, but I think if people do their homework, do their research, they'll come to find out that we are very much telling very similar stories. And that's important because if stories are kind of similar and they start to overlap and they start to sound very familiar, then I would say it's reasonable to think that we're each bringing a different piece of a complete puzzle.
Right. Absolutely. And so, those who have followed me, I speak about this all the time about people on different points of the path and finding out myself, me personally. And so I'm going to repeat this for those who are new to the show and are just tuning in. I think it's important to talk about everybody's truth is different, and it's their own truth because, for an example, last week my truth was one thing, but as I listened to Tolec's interview, it may enlighten me to a point where I wasn't at before. And now all of a sudden, I don't believe what I used to believe because I've risen in my awareness, my consciousness, my belief systems, and also energetically.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And I think that it's probably parochial to think that things stay the same. It's like the 1950s view of the world. It's like, oh, everything's going to be just fine. Well, about the only thing, and this is an offhand quote, but about the only thing that is constant is change. Yep. And even, it's certainly in the conversations that I've had with my own Andromeda Council contact people, with Mark recently, my perspective on a few issues has changed. And we can dive into some of those topics tonight, and I'll take them one by one as you ask about them.
Sure, absolutely. And so, you have the floor tonight, and I think it's important for me just to let you go with it. I know there's probably some people who want me to interject and ask questions, but this when you don't have a steady flow of energy, when people like the host keep butting in and asking questions, it diverts the flow of energy, and you go off on these tangents, and then you never get back to the real completion to that thought. And so, if I'm not butting in and I'm just allowing you to talk, that's the reason. I want you to finish your thought. I want you to go, and when you're done, I want you to say, okay, any other questions? Okay?
Sure. But I'm gonna take this brief moment to say only at this moment in time, I disagree with you. And I disagree with you because guess what? I learn more, and I'm prompted to pull down the information that I know inherently, and or something that I've learned. And by inherent, I actually meant intuitively. Your questions stimulate the information that I have and the knowledge that I have. So I'm sure that we'll cover the information that I know about. You keep asking questions, and we'll continue to have this dynamic conversation. But this is a conversation between you and I. I mean, and the rest of the world is listening, but it's a conversation. So. Right.
But I'm not going to butt in every 5 minutes.
Where do you want to go next?
Well, we could go in many, many directions because there's a lot going on, right? But we talked about the truth. We talked about energy. We talked about the dynamics of what's going on right now. And so some of the variables that we probably should get into, because we talked about why the world is in a 3D state of being or consciousness or awareness. But what influences this raise? Like, there's got to be something that I want to say maybe, I hate to say external because that's separation, because everything is one energetically. But when we're coming from a perspective of, say, fourth density, And this is how I look at it. Each density has its own rules. And so that's what the separation from the very top the whole way down, that's what gives us our perspective, that's what gives us our awareness and our experience. And so what we're talking about tonight is a certain perspective. And as you go up the ladder, there's less and less separation. Then all of a sudden you have the bigger picture. You're putting the pieces to the puzzle that we have together. And so I think it would be important that the conversation we're having tonight is blending the 3D and 4D together with consciousness, with physicality, tangibility of what's going on, what can we see, and what is influencing us behind the scenes that we can't see. And so the next question I think we should transition into would be, what about the additional like cosmic and celestial events that's going on, and what are they? What does that mean? Does that mean it's a solar eclipse? Does that affect us? Does the lunar eclipse affect us? Full moons obviously do. We know in medicine it definitely does. Sure. And so, we maybe should talk about like comic linear and the debris trail that's coming through right now and where we're at in this place in space in the universe with our solar system.
Oh, okay. I'm certainly aware of the fact that linear is coming through and that there is a debris trail. I think like any situation that's beyond the physical borders of this planet, and it's sort of like much like happened with the it's been a while, the silver something asteroid that was supposed to be problematic for this planet. Things happen out in space. Stuff is on track. It gets bumped. And, that's nothing that we can control at all. It's just that there is, especially right now, there's a lot going on in this area of space. It is highly dynamic, which means there's a lot of stuff in it moving very, very fast. This area of space that we've entered into has meteors, it has asteroids, it has lots of space junk. And so we're going to be potentially exposed to meteor showers and or meteorites that hit this planet. Some are the size of baseballs, others are the size of boulders. Can they be bigger? Sure. Will they cause problems? Right now, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can tell you that there's a situation coming up, and this is simply about having information which can become knowledge that people can either do something about, think about, plan about, or not. Alex Collier spoke about it in February 2014. He mentioned a mini solar system, a dwarf star, coming close to Earth space. And I talked to my own contact people on the Andromeda Council about this mini solar system, this dwarf star coming close to Earth space toward the end of the year. And Alex said the information has already been verified by certain Earth scientists. Well, in talking to my people, they said, yes, it's true. And yes, this dwarf star that's moving very, very fast, with it also a large-scale debris trail, is likely to be the cosmic event that will trigger many, many large-scale Earth changes. And I think, as I've said before, the triggering of large-scale Earth changes is sort of the precursor, the immediate forerunner to this planet becoming a 4D world. As I've tried to clarify on my own back in late February this year, the transformation of this world from 3D to 4D is not about when, it is about what happens in certain events. So right now I'm talking about cosmic events that will likely trigger many large-scale Earth changes because of the proximity of this moving sun, this dwarf star, the objects that it's dragging, and how close it's going to be to Mars, how close it's going to be to Earth. It's going to be a dicey time. It's going to be really, really dicey. And they said the last time, my Andromeda Council people, contact people, said the last time that our solar system interacted with this dwarf star. By the way, the people on the Andromeda Council, they have a name. I asked them. They have a name for it. It's called Shatar. So they said last time Shatar and its celestial bodies came into near contact with Earth's space was about 100,000 years ago. And that was a trigger for many changes. And they expect it to pass close by this time. And so I would suggest that people keep their eyes and their ears attuned to that situation. Because if that particular dwarf star bringing the debris with it, if there are going to be some hits on this planet, that can cause coastlines to change. That can cause great amounts of water to, you're talking about ocean upheaval. The coastlines have been warned by many people, including me, to be dangerous places to live as these times of Earth changes get more and more dynamic and become greater and greater. So I would tell everybody, simply take a look at this information, do your own research or not, but take a look at it, ponder on it, take it into your heart and your soul, and after that, trust and follow your own intuition. Just trust your own intuition. That's the only thing you can really do.
And, we're not casting doom or gloom or anything like this, because as you said at the very beginning of the show, this isn't the first time this is ever going to happen to this planet. This planet is, from what our scientists say, like 4.5 billion years old. And so over the lifetime of this planet from its inception there, what could have happened over the years? And we have core samples, we have ice samples, and, there's lots of scientists that say that, for instance, Yellowstone, it's overdue. And so there's all kind of different things that influence change on this planet. And people, they weather the change, they go with the flow intuitively. And so basically we're not trying to cast people, and have them in doom and gloom or fear or anything and be in the survival mode. It's just, we're talking about things that are tangible. We're talking about things that maybe people don't think otherwise, because in fact, towards the end of the show, we're going to take maybe questions and maybe not. We'll see how this all goes, because we got to get through a lot of information tonight. But the one thing we definitely always leave the show with is positivity. It's like, look, okay, this is the facts, but this is what you can do as a human being. You got to pay attention to your intuition and all the things that we'll get into later on. But I just want to preface that now so people aren't like, oh my gosh, you're talking doom and gloom again. No,
I'm not trying to do that.
I know you're not.
Yeah, what I am doing is, Alex Collier for years has had his own Andromeda Council sources. They've provided him with accurate information. I have my own. In a couple of cases, the people are the same. In other cases, the people are different. But in this specific instance, I'm able to confirm that what he's talking about is accurate. I've gotten the name of the dwarf star, the fact that it is coming through. I've got a time frame for when it's going to come through. I've gotten a confirmation for when it came by last time. And this is simply me addressing a specific piece of information and sharing with people. And it's just about knowledge. And once you have knowledge, you can use that knowledge to become wise and make decisions that are best for each person. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm just sharing information. Plain and simple.
Yep. And so, of course, I'm not saying that that's what you're doing. I'm just, for those listeners that are because I know I'm going to get some emails and I get, communications through YouTube and different things like that initially. But once they hear the rest of this show, I just want people to not tune out or anything. This isn't a doom and gloom show. This is all about, you want to know what's going on in the world right now?
Right.
It's the same as here, and I'll give you a good example. I use this a lot. So you're an ostrich and you're in, I don't know, or you're some kind of animal and you're, say, in Africa, and all of a sudden the hyenas are all around you. And so, they're coming to eat you, whether you believe it or not. You stick your head in the sand. Is it still coming? Or because you hid your head in the sand, is it not going to come now? It's the same thing with having this knowledge of these events and things. People need to wake up to what's really going on the planet, and we can make changes at a higher vibration to have the earth and all the other things that are going on not be so traumatic. But you have to be aware of it in order to make those changes that you need to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to stay on this topic, but I want to go off on a different tangent because I feel it's really, really, really important. This is relevant, but it's a different tangent from where we've just been over the past, 15 minutes I've been talking. Here we go. I tend to be very impassioned about people's individual sovereign rights. And when I was preparing for this show recently, a set of words kept coming to me that I wanted to share with everyone. And they're not my words, but they have such a profound impact. And I just read them recently. I was like, wow, I think people need to hear this now because this is such a time of change. And in order for people to participate in that change, they've got to take action. And this is where my passion comes from. You got to take action. And I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just saying that if you want to participate in this time of transition, you just can't sit around and watch, let's see, wintertime football becomes hockey, which then turns to basketball, which then becomes baseball season, and then the cycle goes over and again, on again. And all of the things that are out there, and I'm not saying that sports are bad, but what I am saying is that the media and other institutional sources out there have come up with all sorts of kinds of entertainment to keep people entertained and keep people pacified.
Absolutely.
And what I'm saying is if people want to change their immediate world, then at some level they need to take action.
Yes, absolutely.
All right? So that's the first premise.
So let me respond to that real quick.
Please do.
So this is what I do in my day-to-day practice, practicing family medicine. And so people need to be responsible for themselves and their own actions. And so when they come into me and they say, okay, doc, what should I do for this? And I'll say, with my knowledge, with my experience, this is what is going on. And you can do this, 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 or this. And they say, well, what do you want me to do? And I say, I want you to decide, because you need to take the responsibility for your own health care, just like anything else in life. And so when you you give your power away in health care, you give your power away to the governments, to all kinds of things. So when you take that back, it empowers you, and you take the action that you're talking about right now, because we are in physicality right now. Yes, we're spiritual beings living out a human experience, but what does that mean? That means that you have the opportunity to sit around and be the observer if you want, or you have the opportunity to participate in the changes that are necessary on this planet for yourself, for your fellow man, for the planet, for the solar system, for the universe.
Well said.
And so I totally agree with you.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, and unfortunately, and this is your realm, but I'll speak to it briefly. The generation of our parents, the World War II generation, and I think to some degree the Korean War generation. It started to change with Vietnam. But the generation of our parents and the generation after them would go to the doctor and say, I've got to go to the doctor. The doctor is going to take care of me. The doctor is going to give me my medicine. I have to go to the hospital to get my blood drawn because the doctor needs to monitor my health. We need to monitor our health. We need to be responsible for our health.
Right.
What do we eat? How much do we eat? Make those decisions. And I believe that the more of those decisions that we make, each person is going to find that their health is going to change.
Absolutely. I see it every day.
Yeah, they're taking self-responsibility.
Yes.
But I want to shift back onto the tack that I was taking about self-responsibility in the immediate world that we live in, and why I believe it's important for people to whatever degree they can, take action. And now I'm going to read something that pretty much sums up one way that people can take action. And it's about 4 or 5 paragraphs, but they're very powerful, and they were spoken many years ago. And when they hear the first few words, they're going to go, oh, okay, here we go. But you'll know when I'm done. And the power and the impact of these words are incredible. And what I want people to do is listen to what these words say, because they have meaning. And why do these words have meaning at this moment in time? It's because I believe we're at a precipice of change in this country, socially, consciously, politically, and we have to act to create change. So now I'm going to read, all right? Here we go. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature, of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among people, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that's us. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to then shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. Those are the initial paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence, a unanimous declaration of 13 United States of America, written and signed in Congress July 4th, 1776. And if it sounds like I'm getting emotional, it's because I am, because I can't think of any time more important when people should make changes, because the system that works today does not work for the betterment of the people, and it has not for years. And if the beginning of that change is simply, in a practical form, to go to the voting booth, the polls, if you will, and vote for, I'm going to create a name, Joseph Smith, because Joseph is independent and he stands for righteousness, the kind of righteousness that says, treat your neighbors right, treat people that you know like friends, help each other as much as possible, give to others because it's the right thing to do. Vote for this guy because he's independent, not because he belongs to a political party. For the people that are just waking up, this is a great start, because it's my belief that we're at a critical moment of change on this planet and in this country where the system no longer serves the betterment of the people. And there are a lot of people that are not safe, and there are a lot of people that are not happy. And that's my wrap up for this particular piece. But I wanted to share that, people, to emphasize the moment of time that we're at on this planet. This is my viewpoint. It's not Joe Marra's viewpoint, but it's my viewpoint. And I'm certainly welcome to any thoughts that you might have on this, Joe, and any feedback you might have.
No, I love it. I mean, it's perfect. It's like I'm just sitting here like, yep, wow. I didn't think not that I didn't think, I didn't have any idea that you're going to bring that to the table tonight, but I think it's very important, very valid. It's timely, and absolutely. I mean, God, as you listen to the words of what this country was supposed to be like.
Yes.
And so then you take a look back retrospectively from right now, and if we're going to go back in time, look at all the things, all the transformations that have happened between that date and where we are today. And how far from those words and the
Thank you.
The intent that had been put in place at that particular moment of now, that
life, liberty, safety, the pursuit of happiness.
Of happiness, right?
How many people are happy that you see?
But here's the thing I want to say, Tolec. How many people even know that is the Declaration of Independence, what it actually says, and are they knowledgeable enough? And so we've become lazy, maybe, and we've given our power away. So this is what it goes back to with me giving the example of healthcare, but in all aspects of our life. If we truly knew how controlled the country, not just the country, the world, and we wouldn't stand for it. And,
right.
And so we've gotten lulled into this, this sense of security, this false sense of security that we think, oh, we need the government to protect us. Oh, we need a preemptive strike. Oh my gosh, the Taliban's coming. Oh, well, we better approve the drones in our own country to kill our own people, and on and on and on. And it's just like every day I wake up and I hear these things, and it's ridiculous. But if people don't stand up and take action, right. This is what we have to do as a people, because the people of the country, because this is the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, not another part of the world. So if we're being specific, for us in this country anyway, but all over the world, I really think that it's important and imperative for people to stand up for their God-given rights as a sovereign being on this planet.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
When I read this, and of course there's a list of rights that are listed within this document called the Declaration of Independence that come after everything that I wrote. I didn't write it. I read the words. But when I read it recently and then read it again this evening and read the words written and signed in Congress July 4, 1776, I was like, wow, these guys were so way ahead of the curve in what they were trying to build in this new country. And to bring this forward to your point, it's my supposition as well. We are so far away from what these guys envisioned. And a lot of the reasons that we're so far away as a people collectively is because we have, either by choice or by abdication, empowered people in positions of power, i.e. the Senate, the Congress, the judicial branch, etc. We let them keep making laws, and we don't have any say in it. You know, executive orders that the president signed is one example. Laws that Congress passed that we, the people, certainly aren't involved in, but those laws get passed, and then more of our rights are abridged. And we're like, what do you mean we, the people? We're down here. We're just a bunch of little guys, and all these laws are being passed. Why? Because some people thought it might be a good idea to take actions based on fear.
Yes. And if you look at the political party, it used to be a demarcation with the Democrats and the Republicans maybe back in the day. And so you have a choice of two parties only most of the time.
Joe, same coin, different side.
Yes. Nowadays, this is exactly what it is. But you got to realize that people that get into those it's millions of dollars to run these positions of power or authority. And then all of a sudden you owe favors back to the people that funded this. And so I think that we've got so far away from the true, but it's almost like people that want to get in there to make the changes that are necessary can't even compete because of the monetary value or the money that it costs to even run. And so, you know, this goes back to the banksters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's so much that's influential in everything we're talking about. But if you only have one piece, it doesn't make sense. And that's what we're talking about. This is tangible evidence that you don't even have to research. Just what we're saying. Take a look back between now and what you just said, what this country was supposed to look like, and all the changes in between. And then all of a sudden, you have to realize that some of the events that have happened here in this country were, like a psyops. And so people will say, oh, well, that's just a conspiracy theory and blah, blah. You know what? Open your eyes and do the research. For the people that say that, I'm telling you right now, you haven't done the research. Because when you dig into it and you go down these rabbit holes, all of a sudden, all this other stuff pops up and you're like, oh my God, how is that related to this? And how is that related to that?
And you start connecting the dots, which create links, which create a particular path. You go, coincidence? I don't think so.
Right. And so I think it's important to connect the dots here on this show tonight, because there are a lot of, and that's what the show is all about, universal talk. I'm having you with your specialty in your arena or your genre, and you are in contact with the Andromeda Council, and there are many other people that are also, including myself, over the years I have been in contact with them. And so the information is so similar that it's actually striking. It's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what they told me. So I know in my heart, and I know the validity whenever somebody's speaking the truth, at least in my truth, in my awareness, in my consciousness, my discernment kicks in just the same as my BS meter goes up through the roof when someone's sitting there lying to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's just making this up just because they want to be heard, you know, and they want to be famous. But everything that you have said up to this point is so valid to where we are right here, right now, and the changes that are happening every day. I mean, it's subtle in some respects, but if you do the research, you see how it's not so subtle. There's a lot of changes going on right now, right under our noses and behind the scenes that most people just don't want to know.
Yeah. There are a lot of people on this planet that are focused on living this Earth 3D life. They have, if they're fortunate, they have a house and a mortgage, and they're putting their kids through school, and that costs money. Otherwise, they have a rent. They've got bills to pay. They're planning for their next vacation. There are a whole bunch of people that aren't even clued into this information. But I want to step back for just a moment and clarify something regarding my own passion about this issue, regarding this particular moment of transition and change we're in, and suggesting strongly that people take action. I am not advocating a revolt. That's not what I'm doing. What I am saying is, that's right, we have rights as citizens of this country that if we don't like this form of government and the way that it's working or not working, we have the right to get involved and do things to evoke change.
In a peaceful manner. It doesn't have to be get your guns out and let's go to the courthouse and string them up. And in fact,
it's going to mean work. It's going to mean work, and it's going to mean revision, and it's going to mean revamping the system. But I believe the system needs to be revamped and changed for the betterment of the people living in this country.
Absolutely.
I just do.
And so these are the energies we're going through. So at a higher perspective, I got to say this right now for those listeners that are in these higher realms of understanding, and you already probably know it, but it's going to resonate that energetically, when you revolt, energetically, what you're putting out is what you're bringing back to yourself. So you're actually causing or perpetuating the problem. And so this is what we've done over the years, over the millennium. All people, whether they did or did not strike America, we got to go get them back, and we got to do a preemptive strike, and we got to do all these things that are a lower vibration because of fear, because of the all of these things cause more fear, more low vibration. So as you raise up, first of all, you have to understand what we're talking about through the 3D, 4D, and on the way up. But then you start to say, okay, what can I do? What else can I do besides revolt and pull my gun out and threaten people? That's lower vibration. It's all about love, truly unconditional love. And for the people that are in 3D that don't want to do anything, you know what? You're perfect. Because guess what? You're energetic. You're the same as me and everybody else, but you're just on a different point of the path. So I'm not judging, and I don't believe you are either, Tolec, that we're not judging anybody. We're just saying, look, you have an opportunity. You have a choice. We have free will on this planet right now to make that decision of what do you want to do. And the best way that I have come to at this particular point is not the revolt, as you say, but you can send unconditional love to our leaders. The prayer, the power of prayer is just amazing. They've done research after research, the power of meditation in groups. Yeah. And so there's so many other things you can do, but you can also, you should, in my opinion, take action just like you're saying, because we are in this world of physicality. So when you put some action energetically, that goes out into the universe and it comes right back to you. And it's almost like a snowball effect, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's how we make these changes.
Oh, sure. And it can happen. It can be as easy as a personal experience. Let's say you have and I'll draw on one that I had recently. Let's say you have a family member that you either come in close contact with or you live with, and you guys really disagree on a particular issue. And I had a situation really where I got really, really angry and really mad because I felt that something that I had asked for was disregarded and disrespected. And I was hopping mad, like hornet mad, angry. I had to put that aside for at least, I had to put it aside for days until I could get to the place where I could understand the greater context of not only that situation, but the overall context of my relationship with this person, and then sit down with her and share my feelings on what happened and my feelings on how I felt. So I talked about the issue, and I talked about how I felt without attacking somebody I cared about. And she heard me. She took the time to sit and look at me in the eyes and hear me and hear what I had to say. Now, she may not have even agreed with my position, but because I took that tact, that course of action, there was no harm done to either her or me, because I didn't lash back out at her. When the instance occurred, I got hopping mad. I closed my eyes, I closed my mouth, I walked away, and I just stayed with the anger and I let it process. Anger in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's how you manage it. Now, I know I'm talking to the choir here, and I know you know about this stuff, but a lot of people are not familiar with managing yourself, proactively managing yourself in this way. And this is one small way that you can make a difference in your life and the personal lives of people you affect. Because everything in life is cause and effect. Everything.
Right. Yeah, and so what you're talking about is being reactionary to a moment, a person, whatever's going on in the situation. And so,
I'm talking about not being reactionary.
No, but I'm saying that most people are. They're reactionary, but in your case, you didn't. You stepped back from the situation. You're showing a perfect example of what to do in certain situations, because things escalate and they get out of hand. And then when it's all said and done, and most of it is due to fear, because you just don't understand what the other person is talking about, and it's a low vibration. And as you get sucked into it and you allow yourself, because you do have free will, you have choice, but to walk away, I think that the lesson of the story is to, you know what, walk away, go process it. Don't allow that ego mind to get in there and say, well, I'm going to get my dig in. You know what? If you're leading from the heart, you wouldn't do that, because if you love somebody unconditionally, you don't judge them. There is no fear. There is no doubt. You go home and you figure out, okay, why did I get so angry about that? And then you realize it pops into your head because you actually taken a moment to raise up in a vibration and reach that understanding of why you personally, and like you said, that person may never get it, but you said your piece in a way that was not reactionary, but it's kind of like the adolescents coming out of the sandbox and being adults. And that's what we're asked to be doing right now, this transitional change. For those who want to stay in the sandbox, guess what? You're going to be there. And I really believe that, and this isn't doom or gloom, but I think that you are going to go through some tough times because hanging on to the old ways because of fear of change is going to prevent you from reaching your highest potential. And so those people like myself and others that are trying to just let stuff go, that's not so important anymore because it's not in the greatest good of everybody involved.
Mark Kimmel would describe the if you will, the negative way of handling that situation of, getting all pissed off and yelling at this person and venting and that Mark would describe that as living as a world in 3D fear.
Yes, exactly.
And he describes people who are moving up into a 4D lifestyle of choices. And I'm using my words right now, but I'm trying to do justice to what he says and how he says it. But people like this situation I described with me and others, he was like, Tolec, no, that's more like high 4, mid 5th dimensional feeling. And we talked about this recently. He said, this stuff doesn't happen because you've used your analytical mind. You've used your mind to figure out how you're going to handle this. It's because you've looked into your heart and said, okay, what's the wise thing to do right now? That's a higher level way of being, of acting, of living. And, excuse me, I'm not patting myself in the back here. I'm just using that situation as a means, a way to explain one way that people can make more positive choices just in their daily lives. And it just helps. It helps because, for one reason, people then don't regret something that comes out of their mouths in the heat of the moment. They may feel what's coming out, but it's just their way to express how angry they are. But it doesn't mean that what they're saying in that moment is the totality of how they feel about that person. Both are valid, but it's how you manage that information, how you manage your life, how you direct your life, how you make choices, what choices you make. And I'm not a psychologist. I've just learned all this stuff over the course of my life, and I feel blessed for it. But it takes work. It takes not only work, it takes being conscious every moment of every hour of every day in terms of the situations you're in, and acknowledging that each person and persons that you interact with may or may not have come from a different path of life, a different culture.
Yes.
Here in the U.S., there are a lot of us that are Anglo-Saxon, Western European background. There are many of us who are not. There are people who are Latino, either Puerto Rican or Mexican. There are many people who are African American. There are people who are Japanese and Chinese, and each of those life paths come with cultural differences. Not only is the process of speaking different, but the process of understanding different.
Right.
And you and I both know, coming from the northern part of the U.S., the ways that we think and some of the things we say certainly don't align with some of the things that people feel and say down here in the Southwest. Right. And we're in the same country.
That's it. And so one thing I want to go back to before I lose this train of thought was, please. It's about forgiveness too. We have to remember that, if you're truly in unconditional love with another person, and my example would be my best friend Terry. And so we traveled the planet, going to all these places, East Eddy Ranch and, Phoenix and all these things, all these higher. Well, when we get into these higher vibrations, it got to the point where all her crap would come up and she would be screaming at me and I hate you, Joe Moore, and F this and the other thing. And I would sit there and laugh at her because I knew that I loved this woman unconditionally. She's not, intimately, she wasn't my girlfriend or anything,
Right.
but as I love her as a person, she's
Right.
my best friend. And so I just laughed at it. And of course she felt bad afterwards. I'm like, don't even feel bad. I was laughing like, oh my God, I can't believe that came out of that woman's mouth.
Yeah, right. Of course.
But that's part of being human. We have these emotions that come out and they fly out sometimes. And then, you know what? I could take offense to it, but I didn't because it's like, I understand. I get it. I'm there. I've been in those positions. So when humanity wakes up and grows up and says, okay, look, you can't really hurt me no matter what you say. Yes, I feel the words that are coming towards me because they have an energy to them, but I don't take it on. And I see where you're coming from.
Well said.
So you actually see where that person is in their awareness. And if they truly are at a higher vibration, they just had to get that energy out and then everything's cool. But if they're at a lower vibration, they stick with that and they hold on to some of these energies that they carry with them until they're ready to surrender and release them. And then they can raise to a higher vibration.
That's right.
And that's how it works.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You make a really good point because there are people that go through their whole lives that carry stuff forward from their childhood, difficult teenage years, maybe early adulthood in their 20s, where things have happened and they've been emotionally harmed. They have been, at some levels, traumatized. Now, right now, I'm not even going to go into, oh, well, this is karma from that past life and she's dealing with what he did to her. And I'm just talking about the energy that's carried forward from specific events that become emotionally traumatizing for either women or men. If people don't do things to transform, transmute, and release the pain of that negative energy, they're going to keep responding in similar situations over and over and over again in their lives. And I know you see it.
And it causes dis-ease because somewhere in the body that energy is blocked. And they're holding on to something that sometimes they don't even know. And as a hypnotherapist and an energy healer, I see this daily. And so I could give you, we don't have enough time to go through it, but as just a brief example, I had a woman one time that she was about 36 and she was married and had kids. And so she had tried every psych med that there was out there. She came to me and she didn't know what else to do. And so I said, well, there's some new meds on the market, or we can go this alternative route. We can do some, or complementary route. We can do energy healing. We can do some hypnotherapy. And so she decided to try some different medicines because she really wasn't there yet. She was just like, you know what, let me just try some more meds. And she kept coming back and it just wasn't doing anything.
And so things like Zoloft,
Yes. Yep.
All that.
Right.
All right.
And so
that's a roller coaster of emotional life.
Right. And so I sit down with her and I say, okay, look, do you want me to give it to you straight or do you want me to sugarcoat it?
Good man.
You're at the end of your rope. You have the option of me giving it to you straight, or, you've tried all these medicines. You've been to all these psychiatrists, all these psychologists. You've been to counseling. Did any of it help you release any of this? And she says, no. I can't figure out what's wrong with me. She was having anxiety and depression in her job and breaking down and crying for no reason. And so she comes in and I says, well, I'm going to offer you this. I can't help you anymore because, you've tried all this. You're going to either have to go to a psychiatrist or somebody else. The only thing I can offer you is some hypnotherapy and maybe some energy healing. And she goes, you know what? At this point, I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah, right.
And so it got to that point. I took her back to childhood, and from age 4 to age 14, she was being abused by her grandfather and didn't even know it. She repressed all of this. When she came out of it, she was totally shocked. Like, she goes, oh my God, I can't believe you pulled that out of me. I didn't even know that was going on in my life. And so,
but that leads to that kind of, and in my younger years, I had a relationship with a woman who had been exactly through that. And what happens, because I was an observer of the trauma that's caused from that kind of abuse, from a psychological perspective, what happens is her personality became fragmented as a way to protect herself emotionally.
Sure.
And also, therefore, her immune system goes down. I mean, there are all sorts of ramifications of what I saw happening. It was astounding.
And so you, as a witness to this, can attest to what I'm telling you right now. Now, you maybe didn't personally experience it, but you had somebody that you were close to that you could see what I'm saying. And so when she came out of it, the best way, and this didn't happen with this particular woman, but other people that I've seen, and this could be men or women,
right,
and that had abuse, if they can go into the situation, forgive themselves because it wasn't their fault. They were just a little kid. They didn't know any better. That's number one. Number two is forgive the perpetrator. And that's the most difficult. And so what I have to say to them is, you know what, and everybody right now, not everybody, but a lot of people are like, well, that son of a, you know what, he should have never did that. But you know what? You don't know this person's story. Maybe they were abused early on and they thought it was a normalcy. Or maybe they had truly a psychological disorder from childhood or a chemical, but you don't know people's stories. So it's you can't judge somebody. You don't know. And so other people that have truly healed from it was because they forgave that person in an unconditional love setting. They've forgiven themselves and they surrendered and released it. They didn't need medicine anymore. They felt so light, so lifted. They were bright. I could see it as soon as they lifted. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person is so much brighter now. It takes that dis-ease away from them.
Right. And your method, and of course there are other methods as well. And there are also methods that combine methods that work really well. But in any case, the bottom line is that what you did was to help this woman release the if you will, the irritation and the trauma of that stored negative energy in that woman's psyche and in her etheric body. Because she carried this, I don't know how old she was, but she carried this in her energy body her whole life from when she was a little girl, and which would cause all sorts of problems.
Exactly. And so you're not taught this in mainstream medicine. The only reason I know it is because I became a hypnotherapist and a Reiki master. And so there's the separation, and you can see it in the military, you can see it in day-to-day life, and you see all the specialists. Well, there's an endocrinologist, and then there's a podiatrist. And so nobody has the bigger picture because of the compartmentalization of everything on the planet, and it's the separation. And so what we're talking about is we go into these higher densities, there's less and less separation, which puts more and more of the pieces to the puzzle together, and you have these aha moments. You're like, oh my gosh, no wonder I didn't see that because I didn't have the bigger picture. And so all I'm saying is that's what Universal Talk is all about. Be open-minded to the possibilities. That's it. You just have to be open. If you come in with a mindset of I don't believe anything but what I can hear, see, smell, taste, touch, well, guess what? You're going to miss the boat because there's so much more going on out there than what the five senses can give you.
Yeah. And I know I readily admit that all of the things that we're talking about are at least leading edge and possibly what we would call bleeding edge. But, I am not a know-all. I'm not a seer. I don't have all of the answers. What I do is converse back and forth with the people that I know who are executive level management, non-voting members of the Andromeda Council. That means they're vice chairwoman. That means the commander of the primary Andromeda Council Biosphere. People in different key positions that have no voting authority at all, because the Andromeda Council itself is a council of 12 solar systems with senior homeworld planets that have ambassadors and delegates that all make decisions for the greater benefit of the multiple worlds that are part of that particular governing council. That's what it is. It's like an interstellar, interdensity / interdimensional, intergalactic United Nations. That's what the Andromeda, what Alex calls the Andromeda Council is. and it works for the betterment of the people that live on all of those, both senior home worlds and junior worlds as well.
Awesome.
It's an amazing thing. So,
yeah.
I don't have all the answers, but many of the answers that I receive are spurned on because, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but are triggered because somebody has written to me via the YouTube channel and asked some questions, and I go, this question is pretty weighty. It's worth asking the guys that I know on the council to see what their responses are, what their answers are. And so I usually only go to them when there are things that I believe that I've observed, that people have come to me with, issues that I've heard about that are serious, have great weight, can have great impact. And, hopefully my life experiences, the things I've learned in conversation with Mark Kimmel and Alex Collier and other people, brings value to people's lives. I hope that I'm bringing value to people's lives and gives them something to think about. In the end, everybody's got to make their own decisions. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're moving up. I know we didn't take any commercials, and I don't really plan on it because we only have maybe 35 minutes left of the show.
Sure.
Because we were trucking right along there, and it's nice to, when you get into the flow, not to interrupt. And in the future shows, like whenever Stephanie and I are on, we'll probably be doing that. But because of today's turn of events and things like that, we're just going to go with the flow unless you need a break right now.
I'm fine. I'll just, whatever step you want to take next, go ahead and
okay. Well, we talked about so much tonight, and so we're trying to pull this all together for the various listeners that are out there. And I think that probably, since you are on the line specifically, and we're talking about the Andromeda Council, people are probably wondering, and they're probably wondering, okay, well, we know this shift was supposed to happen, and so everybody's worried about time. And so that's where we get into celestial events and all this kind of stuff, but everybody wants this pinpoint date. And what I've told people in the past, this is my own thing, this isn't a Tolec thing, this is a Joe Marra thing, is that I've witnessed, because time is linear in our perspective, at least 3D. And so I really believe that everything is a potential, that everything's happening in the present moment of now. And so there are too many variables to try to control from because we're co-creators in this thing called life. And so when we make a prediction that's way far out there, the likelihood of that being 100% gets less and less the further out you go. And so because there's just too many influences that can change,
of course,
for the greatest good of the population, in other words. And so, to pose the question, why has it been delayed? Everybody's saying, why is it in what does this mean for all of us in the future?
Okay. Really good question. And really relevant, because a lot of people are asking the question. My Andromeda Council contact people told me that, and I'm going to paraphrase what I've learned, because, and here we go. I'm not patting anybody on the shoulder right now, but I'm just stating what they said. Because of people like Joe, Marra, Chris, Gio, JP, Jay Perrone, Tolec, Mark Kimmel, Alex Collier, Melchizedek, James Gillian, and on and on and on. And because of the internet. The internet continues to be an open communication source that for the most part is non-commercial and enables people to communicate in a way never before known in human history at almost the speed, I'm speaking off the cuff now, almost the speed of light. People are communicating in really fast manner. Why is that relevant at this moment in time? Well, it's relevant because and this is one of those leap of faith things, but as the creator gods underneath creation, God, creator, whatever you want to call that, as these way high density beings are looking down and watching, and to some degree, and this is going to be a stretch for some people, but I just learned this myself. These creator gods, small g godlets, are directing the process of cosmic change. Now, the people at the fourth and fifth dimension level that have unique technologies where they can either minimize or abate some of the difficult, far more challenging changes, and they've done this with different technologies. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about the godlets that are way, way high up that sort of push here a little bit, nudge there a little bit. They know, and sorry for saying this, I'm going to use this four-letter word. They know when the right time is because they're looking at critical mass. They're looking at the critical mass of people that are waking up on this planet. And they've been surprised. I'm using my words to just try to describe something. They were and continue to be surprised at the recent speed of which the amount of people are waking up. There are more people waking up than they thought was possible. Now, is that going to change by a whole bunch? No, it's changing incrementally. But collectively, because at this level, these godlets were in groups, in large groups for that matter. They're large energy consciousness. They've said, we really need to allow the people of Earth as much time, as much opportunity as we can for them, for as many of them to evolve to their highest potential possible, given the probable path that things are taking. And so it's nudge here, push there, stall here, from a really high level, way, way high up, as they watch the people on this planet evolve. And therefore, they are saying, it's going to happen. Your world is going to change. It's going to make this higher dimensional transformation. But it's only going to happen at the apex of when the people on this planet have reached their highest potential within the context of this current 3D world. Am I saying that's going to be 3 to 5 years in the future? No. Am I saying it's going to be in the immediate future? Yes. Am I also saying that the trigger events that you can pay attention and look for will be cosmic events like this dwarf star that's going to be coming close by to this Earth system? Yes. Be aware of events that can potentially have large-scale magnetic effect to the planet and or other cosmic events. But watch for the events. The events that trigger large-scale Earth changes will be the forerunner and the beginning of the transformational shift of this planet. Now, I want to follow that thought with another thing that Mark Kimmel and I were talking about recently. Just because this planet and its rocks and its mountains and its streams and its rivers and oceans and its animals and people and insects, to whatever amount of them shift and become crystalline-based, fine essence matter, fourth dimensional people and beings with different skills and traits and clairaudience and clairsentience and telepathic and teleporting abilities, etc., etc., etc. It does not mean that all people will evolve at the same rate and come to understand their new lives. I'm learning that it's going to take people a lot longer, and I'm going to use an expression now. It's going to take them how we would currently measure Earth time, 50 years, 65 years, 75, 80 years. It's going to take a few generations of people to get used to these new lives that they're living, the new abilities and capabilities that they have, the unique differences of higher dimensional life. It's going to take some years for many people to adjust. For other people that are already kind of, as Mark would say, living 4D lives, but living in love, living in compassion, living mid-5D lives, these people will catch up quicker because they're like, we get it, we know what's going on. These people who are deciding to stay on Earth and who will embrace, at minimum, a mid-4D life, and in some cases, 5D lives, we're talking about density. It's going to take a lot of people some considerable years to evolve and accept this new way of life. And it's something that I've learned recently that I've been able to wrap my hands around, wrap my mind around. And that is a different concept than there'll be a moment in time very soon when this world and its inhabitants will transform into a higher dimensional world. That's the physical aspect. What I just addressed was the intellectual, all of the capabilities, all of the nuances of higher dimensional life that we won't come to feel comfortable with until we start living them on a day-to-day basis. And so that's really relevant. And I'm glad I had a moment to share that because I'm not so sure that people quite understand the differences. I'm trying to draw the line between the physical manifestation of transformation and then what it will be like to live and embrace a 4D life and all the different expressions of what 4D and lower 5D and mid 5D life are like. We're going to be living different lives. It's just going to take people some years to get used to that. So I know I've been a little redundant here, but I'm trying to draw the lines and make sure people understand the differences.
No, it was perfect. And I totally agree with you because, when humanity in this physicality has to transform, these are what some may consider subtle changes. The potential's there. Energetically, the energies are here. They're ripe for the change, but the body takes time. Everything happens so fast, like in an instant, energetically. But it takes physicality time. There's that word that you hate to use, and so does everybody. Yeah. It takes time for that transformation into physicality because of the way the density is. Things are so dense and thick, it takes time for the change when things are dense. Because, if you could imagine something that's real thick and dense and all of a sudden you expose it to a high vibration, like right now, it obliterates the physicality of it because it has to go up gradually. And I'm not just talking about humanity. I'm talking about anything on this planet. And so we are going through these changes energetically and otherwise. I'm not just talking about humanity. I'm talking about the rock formation. I'm talking about the plants, the trees, the everything on this planet and humanity. And because we are all one, we're all connected energetically. As the planet raises, this is another variable. As this planet raises, not everybody's going to reach these higher realms because it may not be their soul contract. They may have had free will to say, you know what, I don't want to do that this time around. Maybe I'll do it the next time. And so, again, it's all different people on different points of their path, and it doesn't make anybody better. It doesn't make one right or wrong. It just is, because there is no right or wrong. This is all about experience.
Right. It's just different stages of learning on a person-by-person basis, and it's also, each soul has their own emotional maturity path. I'm pausing because I'm really trying to choose the correct, the most accurate words. And spiritual maturity, you and I can have a conversation about this, and pretty much west of the Rockies, a lot of people will get this. East of the Rockies, it's a different story. Because there are a lot of people who go, spiritual life. And I'm not trying to make fun of them, but what I am trying to do is make a really valid point that spiritual life, or trying to become aware of spiritual life, is not about getting closer to what we call God or Creator and creation. What it is about is learning who you, not necessarily you, Joe, but learning, each person learning who they are.
Yes.
Where, not necessarily, but it's possible, not necessarily what star system did you come from or what planet did you come from, but more specifically, what unique combinations of gifts and skills that each person does really, really well that's different from the other person. Why are you here? What gifts and skills did you come to this 3D Earth plane with? As an example, and I've been told this, so I'll repeat what somebody else has told me. They're like, wow, Chris, you're a really good communicator. Well, this is something that I do well, and I work at doing it well. Well, I not only work at doing it well, I enjoy doing it well. But other people are really good builders. Other people are phenomenal builders of homes and vehicles. Other people are amazing accountants. So I digress a little bit, but what is spiritual life all about? Spiritual life is really about learning who you are as a unique individual person. And if you want to dive into your path and learn from experiences and figure out who you are. And it takes some time. Most people, I think, start this in their really, really early 30s. They go through some kind of sort of, Sam Keen calls it the dark night of the soul. It is basically you wake up one morning and you go, I want to change my life. I'm better than what I'm doing. I'm better than the decisions I'm making. I need to be a better person. People get to that point and they go, okay, time for me to learn about me. How can I become a better person? Well, in becoming a better person, they can learn about themselves and learn about what makes them tick and learn about how they can help society around them immediately on a day-to-day basis. So that's really, and now that's again, this is my perspective and of course my opinion only, but that's what I've come to learn that spiritual life is about. Now, have I learned that my spirit essence originated on a planet called Dakota in the open star cluster called Pleiades? Yes, I've learned that. Okay. Is that important information? Maybe. But what's even more important is how do I treat people on a moment-by-moment, day-by-day basis? What do I do? What decisions do I make in this moment, in this life today? That's what's relevant.
Right.
And I think for me, that's living a spiritual life.
Yeah, so that leads us into the next piece of the conversation is that I really believe that each individual person on the planet is a multi-dimensional being, and there's energetic streams from various dimensions that's all a part of the individual that's here. And so while we're here in what people are calling the ascension process, we're actually knowing thyself, as if you want to quote, say, Jesus, who walked this planet, and many people quote him because they can get behind the religious aspect of him. But I thought, in my opinion, I think he was here to teach us, humanity, our highest potential. He said, you will do these things and greater things. And so those that are in the religious sense that are listening to the show can maybe get behind that fact that look what he did. And he was like, look what you can do. This is your highest potential. But we're multi-dimensional beings, in my perspective.
Very true.
I don't think we're unilateral. I'm just one human being that came from one star system. I think that we've lived thousands and thousands of lives, and because everything's in the present moment of now, everything is a potential, and the past, present, and future are right here, right now. Right. And I've depicted this in the past by saying, as an example, to try to wrap your head around what that means, is like when you log into, say, YouTube, you have all these videos that are already created, and they're not playing right now, but they have a potential to play. And so what you focus your consciousness on, when you click the play button of one of those, that's your life. And that's what you're living out at that particular moment of now. Because if you had all aspects of memory of who you were and all the dimensions, it would take away from this particular experience right here, right now, because you would know everything.
Right.
To me, it's about remembrance, and some people call it about soul growth. You could look at it that way, and from one perspective, yes, that's true. I'm not saying it's wrong, but from an even a higher vantage point, you realize that, well, wait a minute, I already am all these things. So what you're talking about is knowing yourself. And as you reach these higher levels, if you want to call them that, of consciousness, and again, nobody's better than anybody else. This is just when you do the inner work and you let go of some of these things that no longer suit you, and you start to live what you're talking about. You truly live. I mean, some people say, I'm not from this planet. I hate this world. I want to go home. Well, guess what? That's not what it's all about. That's one aspect of who you are. Yes, you are maybe a Syrian light warrior and you want to go back there, but you signed on to be here. What does it mean to be a human, a spiritual being living out a human experience on this planet during this change, during this ascension process? And so this is where things get really deep and people are like, holy crap. I don't know if I can get behind all that stuff, but I like what he's saying, but I don't know if I can agree with it at this point. And then there's other people who are like, wow, now that is what I'm talking about. And so I'm just trying to reach everybody that's out there, because we're talking different dimensions. We're talking about 3D, 4D, 5D, the whole way up, and even more. Right. And some of us, like you say, we're on different points of the path, and we're going to wake up as we're in this energy right now. And as these days and these months and time moves forward into, say, the 10, 15, 20, 50 years, people that are vibrating at a higher vibratory frequency are going to stay on the planet because they've chosen to for the particular experience.
Right.
And they're like, wow, how? Because really, I truly believe we're children of the universe. We're here to play. And so we have this self-induced amnesia that we put on ourselves to come here at this particular moment of now. Because as I always say, even early on, I said, man, if I knew I was a God being, I wouldn't be here. This is too dense. I want to go play somewhere else where it's fun and I can just fly and, do whatever I want to do. Yeah. And so it's a challenge to us. And so, that's my perspective. And I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, I believe that though your words are different, many of the concepts that you just outlined are very much consistent with a lot of the things that I just said. I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm getting a little reverb on my end. I happen to be a person who loves to play. Given the choice, I'd be playing all the time. I'd be finding some tennis court or some beach somewhere just playing. But the reality is, I can't do that. The reality is, I got to pay this mortgage to pay for this beautiful house. Well, the house is okay, but to pay for this beautiful location that I live in.
Absolutely.
In the high desert of Southwest. It is incumbent upon me to pay that mortgage and to work so I can pay it every single month and pay for the electric bills and the internet and everything else that I got to pay for. Right. I would love to play all the time, but the reality is I can't. Right. The other reality is I'm not a happy person if I don't play some. Yeah. I have to play some, and play comes in a number of different adult forms, and it's good for me to play. It keeps me in balance.
Yes, thank you. I'm saying these two words in my head, like as soon as you're done, I'm like, okay, I got to talk about balance and I got to talk about living, because that's what we're talking about right here. You can't go out there and get in your spiritual robe and go out there and preach on a pulpit and say, okay, this is how you have to be, just like we're here to play. So when I drop the F-bomb, I do it because I like it and I think it's funny, and the person that heard it, I said it in such a manner that they're laughing. And it's all a part of being and living your life, because we have these preconceived notions of, well, if you're spiritual and you're really highly evolved, then you have to be this way. No, it's not like that. Be you. Be who you are. If you're funny, be funny. Don't restrict yourself, right?
Yeah.
Pay the bills. Live your life. Because there's been people that over the transition of all this stuff, oh, well, it's going to happen and there's the doom and gloom and we got to get a hut or we got to, dig a hole and we got to be ready for this. And you get yourself into survival mode, which is fear, and you don't live because you're not in the present moment. You're living for the future. And so when you're balanced, all aspects of yourself, not in doom and gloom, not in fear. Really, yes, we're in this reality, we're in physicality, but if you step into fear, it prevents you from reaching your highest potential. So it's all about balance, just what you said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a friend over last night because I needed to use his skills. I'm not, I can do plumbing stuff. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I can't mess around with heating, air conditioning. And there were 3 outdoor electrical boxes hanging off my deck because I rebuilt the deck. It was a bit of a rat shack, and now it's a nice deck. I can have friends over. We can sit in the backyard, drink some iced tea, glass of wine, glass of beer, and watch the sunset. Look at the stars come up. Well, I had for like 6 or 7 months these 3 electrical outlets that were hanging off the deck. So I called a buddy of mine and said, "Hey, John, can you come over and take care of these things for me?" He goes, "Yeah, sure. This time, yeah, come on over." So he came over. He and I talked a little bit, but he came over. He did the work. The work took about an hour. I paid him. And then we sat down for like the next 2.5, 3 hours. Come to find out, this guy was almost on the same page as me in terms of the moment of time that this planet is at, the transition it's going through, what people are getting all excited about, the coming transformation of the global shift. Some people call it ascension. I call it transformation. I was astounded that this guy was thinking much in the same ways that I had. How did it happen? He was drinking his Coca-Cola. I was having a glass of, in this case, I was having lemonade with some grapefruit pulp in it. We're watching the daylights fade, and we sat there for like 2.5 hours. And I said, "Hey, buddy, I love you, but you got to leave. I got to get some food." So I went off but that's life, that we spent 2.5 hours connecting and sharing about each other's lives. And I would not have known that had I just had John come over and remove the electrical things and off he goes.
Yes.
That's the balance of life. And
I think this has happened more and more to people that they're energetically we're vibrating at a particular frequency and we're attracting those people in our realm, our reality, if you will, that are speaking the same language, and we're connecting. And it happened to me here. I was just ready to leave the job that I'm in, and I'm considered what they in the medical field called PRN, or as needed. But they use me for full time, and so it's like 5 days a week. I'm there, 9 to 5, and it's not what I exactly wanted, but you know what? I can help a lot of people, and I'm kind of bored anyway, so. Well, I'm trying to balance out my work and play, because if I don't work, then I can't go play and I can't go travel. Right. So I'm doing the same thing. But this gentleman that walks into the door here, I don't know, a month ago or maybe 2 months now, MD, walks in, starts, like the medical stuff, and he seemed a really nice guy. And one day he was putting his feelers out. He was like, "So what do you think of astrology? And what do you think?" And I was like, "You're asking the wrong person. If you really, do you want me to sugarcoat it, or you want me to give it to you straight?" Just give it to me. And I gave it to him. Didn't this guy, he's, like you said, he's about on the exact same page as me. He's written a book. He's on ancient aliens. I'm like, here's this guy sitting next to me. I never met him before, and he is wide open. And it was so refreshing to be able to sit there and talk to somebody that spoke my language, because what we're talking about tonight, not everybody on the planet speaks this way, and they don't believe the certain things that we believe. And so it's really refreshing when you can get a like-minded individual that vibrates around where you're at, that you can sit there and hash it out and go, "Oh, thank God. It's not just me. I'm not crazy." Even though I know I'm not, it just gives you confirmation, and it feels good.
Yeah.
All right,
Joe,
dude,
I know that I'm just going to interject for a moment, and we're going to hang a hard left here. I know that with these kinds of shows, typically there are people who either call in with questions, or there are people in chat rooms that have questions.
Yes.
We've got about, 10 minutes or so. Are there any questions that you feel are valid that will address important questions we haven't answered yet?
Typically, we would be taking those calls, but because of the situation that we talked about at the very beginning of the show, we're just not going to do the Q&A this time, but I want to get you back on the show again so that we can do that. And we'll, if there's anybody that has questions for you or myself or the show, they can email me, and we'll address it on the next show. And it's just because of, the Stephanie's loss, I really don't want to have to bring her in and interject and put more stress that she really, has to do right now.
Sure, yeah, I certainly understand. I don't respond to people via email, but it's similar to email. Yeah, so I'll just clarify this. And this is a good time to do it. People can reach me via the messaging part, which is, again, just like email, via the messaging part of if they have it set up, a YouTube channel with just like an email address. YouTube has the ability to set up an account. Part of the services of that account is the ability to write messages, much like writing email. So they can write to me at Tolec, T-O-L-E-C, from Dakote. D is in David, A, K-O-T-E, Tolec from Dakote. And I still answer a few hundred questions each week. It's not the 700 questions to 1,000 questions I was answering in 2012 and mid-13, but I'm still answering a few hundred questions each week, and I continue to. So that's how people can reach me, and I'll respond.
Wonderful. If you have questions for the show, the easiest way for me to do it right now is just to tell you to contact me at universaltalking@gmail.com. And so we have about 5 minutes left. And is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Like right now in these transitional times, what can people do? I know 5 minutes isn't a lot to get into. I mean, we talked a lot about this already, but specifically, is there anything more specific that you feel that would be really important to tell people right now with your contacts? What are they saying to you? What's the Andromeda Council saying to you to say, listen, if this was a 5-minute conversation with humanity, what would you say to them?
Okay. I can be eloquent at times and very simple and direct at others. I think at this moment in time, what I'm going to choose to do is cite a couple of guys who are either as equally enlightened as me or even more so, both Mark Kimmel and Alex Collier. And both of those guys, and I have to agree with them, by the way, both of those guys say, and I'm going to use my words now, people, wake up. You are incredible, expansive beings of light. And as an example, we have these bodies that I guess on average for women are like 5'5", 5'6", maybe for men 5'10", 5'11", regardless of age, and I'm giving averages. And stuffed inside these bodies is a portion of your total soul and your total spirit essence. And your total soul and spirit essence is huge. It is far, far more big, far more expressive, far more multi-density and multi-dimensional than people can even imagine. So having said that, what I would say to people in echoing the words of Alex Collier and Mark Kimmel is, come to realize who you are on this planet at this moment in time. Live your life to the best of your ability, to the fullest that you can. Help yourself. If you can, help others in your family, help your neighbors. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but become the highest and best expression of yourself, which is an amazing light being of love and kindness. And that's partially mine, but mostly echoing the words of Mark Kimmel and Alex Collier. and they're wise men. They know what they're talking about. We are incredible beings of light, and I think that if we're going to experience life on this planet to its fullest, then we sure ought to get to know ourselves really, really well.
Absolutely. And live.
And have a good time doing it also.
Yes.
I can be very serious and very passionate and very intense, but I'm a prankster. I love to have fun. I love to tease people, and I enjoy life. When I tease people, I do it in fun. They know I'm kidding.
Okay, that's perfect. We're running out of time. I hate to cut it off here, but I want to thank you for coming on the show, Tolec. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in, and for those who will be listening. You know what? We can make the changes. We said it the whole way through the show. We are powerful co-creators of this thing called life, and so just to sign off now, the other thing I want to say is thank you, and such gratitude for humanity, for this planet, and for Stephanie for taking time out during this time of a transition with her stepmother. I can't thank you enough for being behind the scenes, making this happen for humanity, for the planet, and for this shift.
Now, isn't it time to stop somehow? Air that's too angry to breathe, water our children can't drink. You've heard it hundreds of times. Say you're aware, believe and you care. Do you care enough? Where's your conviction, love? The heart.